Um, so if you have a quadratic, this is the general equation for a quadratic. You've got ax squared plus bx plus c. Um, these are all the numbers in front. Those numbers are called the what? Do you remember? Like the math term for that? They're called the coefficients, right? Um, so this is the standard form for the equation. This that's the vertex form for the equation. Are any of this stuff looking familiar to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're doing the vertex is always going to be at h comma k. And depending on whether this is plus or minus, if it's negative, then this is a maximum. If it's plus, then h comma k is a minimum. Here's another way of writing the exact same equation, which they use on the SAT. They're going to say that y is equal to a times x minus a times x minus b. And your a and your b, they call the zeros of the equation. So if I have a picture of this, and let's say this is my quadratic, then let me change the color of this and make it bigger. Those red dots, that's your A and your B, because those are where it crosses the x-axis, so those are the zeros. And then I'll do this dot in green. That green dot, that's your h comma k. So that tells you where the vertex is.
Okay.
So all three of those points are different numbers, and I probably should say like capital A here, because that's a different, that's the same as that A right there. But these are actually where you have your zeros. Okay, so that's kind of like an overview of all the stuff they expect you to know about quadratics. The h comma k is the vertex. If I factor this, I get this formula, so it tells me where the zeros are. And I can use this I can use that equation to go from this form to that form, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so let me give you an example. So I'll just do the one that's in the book. All right, so let's say that my parabola is this. Is equal to y is equal to 2x squared minus 4x plus 5. And that's the general equation for it. And it's asking you to find the turning point and the zeros for that equation. So I'm going to try to do both. So remember that this is your A, that's your B, and that's your C. And so if I'm trying to find the turning points, another way of saying a turning point is saying what is the vertex. So we're going to try to find the vertex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that h is equal to negative b over 2a. And so I'm just going to do that. So negative b would be 4 over 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. And so that means that h is equal to 1. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to do f of x. And I'm going to say that that's f of 1 because that x is equal to 1. Those are the same thing. And so I'm going to plug that into this equation to find my y. So this is 2 times 1 squared minus 4 times 1 plus 5. So that's 2 minus 4 plus 5. And that would be 3. So this gives me my k value. And so now that I know that, I can say that the turning point is at 1, 3, because that's where my vertex is. Now if I want to write this equation in vertex form, remember that the general equation is y is equal to x minus h squared plus k, and then there's an a out here. Well, what's my a value?
2.
So that 2 goes there. And then it's x minus, what's my h value?
You have the h, the 1.
So the 1 goes there, and then that's squared. And then what is my k value?
3.
So the 3 goes there. And so that's the equation in vertex form. Okay, so that vertex is the exact same as the turning point. You need to know that those two things mean exactly the same thing when they ask you that on the test.
All right.
Okay, so now I'm going to go back and I want to find out where this curve crosses the x-axis. So I look to see if I can factor this. So I take this number times that number. What do you get?
10.
Is there a factor of 10 that you can add together to give you -4? So if I have 1 times 10, that's my first factor.
Yeah.
What times 2 is equal to 10?
5.
Is there any way to combine those using positive or negatives to get -4?
No.
No. So if that doesn't work, then we have to use a quadratic equation. So the quadratic equation is -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we get 4 plus or minus the square root of 16, because that's 4 squared. And then I do 4 times 5, which is
20
times 2, which is
40,
and then it's minus, so this is minus 40 all over 2 times 2.
4.
Now, when you look at this, 16 minus 40, does that give you a positive or negative number?
Negative.
If it gives you a negative number, that means I'm going to get an imaginary, right?
Okay.
So that means that my curve is going to be up here somewhere.
Okay.
Where that dot right there is 1, 3. And because I got an imaginary number here, I got an I value, that means that it never crosses the x-axis. So it doesn't have any zeros.
All right.
Now, that was a lot of stuff. So I'm going to give you one to do now.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go over it again. First thing that I do in order to find the turning point is I use this equation to figure out. Do you need to write that down or will you remember it?
I'll write it down. It's negative b over 2a. Negative b over 2a.
So once I find that number, I take that number and I plug it back in here for x, in each of the places for x. And then that gives me my k value. And then once I know my h and my k, then I know that my vertex is h, k. And then I can write it in vertex form. And then I can go back and factor this thing to see if it has any zeros. If it actually has a 0, then this will be a real number. So that will be positive. If it doesn't have a 0, then that will be negative, and then you just say it doesn't have any zeros.
Okay.
Okay. So So we're going to do this question in the book. So the question in the book, if you flip your page, turn to page 626, and we're going to answer the questions 13 through 15.
All right.
So this is x squared minus 20x minus 69.
Okay. So my first step would be
read the question aloud because I didn't actually do the first one, but I want to see if you can figure out how to do it.
on the parabola whose equation is x equals x squared minus 20x minus 69. Okay, so don't you...
What did it ask you for? What did it ask you for?
Parabola.
Was the question asking you? Read what the question is actually asking you.
Oh, where does the graph of the parabola cross the y-axis?
How would you find the y-intercept? What do you do?
Find the vertex.
Nope. Don't have to do that. It's actually easier than that.
Find, I don't know.
Okay, so to find the y-intercept, you set the x equal to 0.
Okay.
Because you're trying to figure out what y is. So this is going to be 0, and that's going to be 0.
Okay. So y equals negative 69.
And that's where it actually crosses the y-axis.
All right.
So does it cross the y-axis?
Yes.
So what's the answer there?
Negative 69.
Which is answer
A.
Okay. All right. 14.
Okay. What is the sum of the x coordinates of the points where the graph of the parabola crosses the x-axis? So it's the same equation. So do you make the y 0?
Yeah, you make the y 0.
Okay, so we make the y 0. We still have the x squared minus 20. So we'll make that a 0. Then we'll add 69 to both sides.
No.
No.
Whenever you have a quadratic, you have to factor it.
Okay.
So when it's asking you where it crosses the x-axis, it's asking you to find the zeros. How did I find the zeros before? Do you remember what I did? I want to see if I can factor this equation. Do you remember how to factor?
Yeah, you do like b squared. It's like over like 2a. It's like the square root of b squared plus ab, something like that. Like it looks like this. It's like 2a, and it's like b to the square root of b plus or minus, something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna make it easier for you.
Okay.
The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can factor it instead of using the quadratic equation. Okay. So this is how you factor. You take this number, which is the last number, and you say, what two numbers multiplied together give you 69, or negative 69? So let me move that over so that's clear. So what two numbers multiplied together give you negative 69? And then add together to give you negative 20.
I want to say 3 times something.
So what's 3 times what is 69?
16, no. Off.
So let's do it. 1 times what is 69?
69.
There's no 2 there because that's an odd number. 3 times what is 69? You can use your calculator. Go ahead. Now, is there any way to combine those two numbers together to get 69?
No.
Or to get negative 20?
No.
Adding or subtracting?
Well, if you had a negative 20 and you added negative 23 and you added 3, then you can get negative 20.
Right. So that's what you have to do in your head. So that's negative 3 and that's 3. And that's 3 and that's negative 23. And so the factors of this, you just put next to x. So I'm going to take this number and put it next to x. So this is x plus 3. And then I'm going to take that number and put it next to x. So it's x minus 23. Mm-hmm. And they are both set equal to 0. So I got to set both of those equations equal to 0 in order to find the zeros. So in this case, what would x be equal to?
0.
Okay, so I'll write it out. X plus 3 equals 0. Solve for x.
X equals 3.
How do you move that 3?
You subtract, so x minus 3.
Do the other one.
X equals 23.
So those are the two zeros. So what would the sum of those zeros be equal to then?
The sum? So wouldn't I have to plug those back into?
Just add those two numbers together. What do you get?
Oh, x equals 20.
X equals 20. So this is equal to 20. So that's what the answer is. Now, if I had just looked at this number and changed the sign of it, I automatically would have gotten the answer. So the sum of the two numbers multiplied together are equal to the middle term with the opposite sign. That's the thing that I want you to remember. And you might need to write that down. So the middle term, if I change the sign of it, it gives me the sum. This is equal to the sum of the numbers.
Okay, so the middle term of the, what is it called?
Parabola.
Parabola gives you the sum.
It gives you the sum. You have to change the sign of it.
Change the sign, okay.
All right, 15.
All right. Which of the following is the parabola's vertex? So the
Okay.
vertex is the turning point.
Yes. So let me write that down. X squared minus 20x. That's 69. Okay, and so that's equal to y. Now, do you remember how I found the turning point?
You did the formula, what was that formula?
You wrote it down, didn't you?
Yeah, y equals 2x minus 20x. No. Oh, I did. It was negative b over 2a.
Okay, so I want you to do that now. Tell me what negative b
So
over
negative b is going to be like, is it negative b on the 69? Or is it the 20?
Okay, this is a.
Okay.
That one's b.
Oh, so it's negative 20.
And that one's c. So it's a negative times a negative 20, which makes it a what?
Positive. Over 2x.
What number's in front of x?
A neg.
If there's not a number there,
It's
then
a
what
1.
number? It's a 1.
It's a 1. So it's just 20 over 2, which equals 10.
Okay. Now what do I do with the 10? Because that gives me my h.
You plug them back in for x. So we have 10 squared. Sorry. Minus 20. Times 10. Minus 69. Okay, so you do that.
Okay. Now this is what's nice about the SAT, right? I already found this number. I know that number is 10. Let's look at our answers and use the process of elimination to find the other answer.
Okay. Oh, it has to be C.
It has to be C.
Because it's 10 and then comma negative 169.
So did I have to do the second part?
No.
No.
That's awesome.
So whenever you're doing the SAT, always take a break.
Okay.
Once you find one of the answers or part of the answer, see if you can use elimination to figure out what the actual answer is, because that's going to save you time on the test.
All right.
So that's how it's different than like math class. Especially if stuff is multiple choice, because most of the time you can eliminate at least half of the answers. Yeah. And on the SAT, you're going to guess at everything regardless. You're not going to leave any answers blank. Yeah. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I need to find some questions on zeros now. Hold on. Give me a second.